The piece of string. The rich people with vehicles of all kinds, carts, wagons, dump carts gather at a great big hall for a great meal. There were chickens, pigeons, and legs of mutton in the roast and an appetizing odor of roast beef. Leaf and gravy dripping over the brown skin, which increased the appetite and made everybody's mouth water. Everyone told his fare, his purchases, and sales. The diners discussed the crops and the weather, which was favorable, but not for wheat. Suddenly, at the sound of drum beat in the court, everybody rose from the seats except a few ones who still had the food in their hands. After the drum beat had ceased, the drumster called out to the people, who were now attentive and impatiently waiting for him to call out the public announcement. It is hereby made known to the inhabitants of this place, and general to all persons in the market, that a black leather pocket book containing 500 shillings and some business papers was lost on the road between 9 and 10 in the morning. The finder is requested to return the same to the mayor's office or to Mr. James, the caretaker of this public hall. There will be a reward of 20 after the meal had concluded. The chief of the police appeared on the scene. He inquired, "Is Mr. Hubert here?" Mr. Hubert, seated at another end of the table, replied, "Here I am." The police officer went up to him and said, "Mr. Hubert, will you please accompany me to the mayor's office? The mayor would like to talk to you." Mr. Hubert, surprised and disturbed, followed the police officer. The mayor, a stout, serious man, was waiting for Hubert. "Mr. Hubert," he said, "you were seen this morning to pick up the pocket book lost by Mr. James." Mr. Hubert, the simple countryman, looked at the mayor astonished and already terrified by the suspicion resting on him. "Why me? Me picked up the pocket book?" "Yes, you yourself." "By my word of honor, I never heard of it." "But you were seen." "I was seen with the pocket book." "Who saw me?" "Mr. Manana." "The harness man saw you pick up the pocket book." Mr. Hobart, the old man, remembered, understood, and flushed with anger. "Oh, him! Yes, he saw me pick up this thing here," and as he said so, he drew out the little piece of string from his pocket. But the mayor shook his head and said, "You will not make me believe that Mr. Manana, who is the man of worthy credence, mistook the court for a pocket book?" Mr. Herbert, the peasant, furiously lifted his hand, waved at one side to attest his honor, and said in the most furious tone, "It is, nevertheless, truth of the good God, the sacred truth. I repeat it on my soul and my salvation. After picking up the object, you stood there, looking a long while in the mud to see if any money had fallen out." The good soul, Mr. Herbert, choked with indignation and fear. How anyone can tell such lies to make away an honest man's reputation? How can anyone? There was no use in Mr. Herbert's protesting, for nobody believed him. Mr. Manana repeatedly maintained that Herbert had picked up the pocketbook. For an honor, both men abused each other. Then, at his own request, Mr. Herbert was searched. Nothing was found on him. Finally, the mayor discharged Herbert with warning that he would consult the public prosecutor and ask for further orders. As he left the mayor's office, people surrounded and questioned him with serious curiosity. Nobody believed his story of the string. Instead, people laughed at him. Mr. Herbert went along, stopping his friends, giving them his statement and presentation, turning his pocket inside out to prove that he had nothing. All they said was, "You old rascal, get out of here." Mr. Herbert went to the village telling every man he knew about his adventure, but he only met with incredulity. It all made him ill. The next day in the afternoon, a man named George returned the pocketbook and its contents to Mr. James, the owner of the pocketbook. Josh claimed to have found the pocketbook on the road to the village market, but not knowing how to read, he had given it to his employer. The news spread like fire in the neighborhood. Mr. Hubbard was also informed. He was in triumph. What grieved me as much was not the thing itself as the lying. There is nothing so shameful as to be called a liar. Whatever reasons he gave, people were not willing to believe him. Those are lying excuses. They said behind his back. Hubbard felt this shame and disgrace to his self-esteem and character. He consumed his heart over this and wasted away before the very eyes of the people. People started to tell the story of the string to amuse themselves and told it in a manner of soldier who had been on a campaign and told about his battles. Hubbard's mind, touched to the depth, began to watch day by day. Towards the end of the month, he took to his bed. He died in the first week of the following month. In the delirium of his death struggles, he kept claiming his innocence, reiterating, "A piece of string, a piece of string. By my word of honor, I didn't lie." And he died. It is said that a great flood, in its great wrath, carried away the people and all their belongings. The grave of Herbert withstood the havocs of the flood. It was engraved on his tombstone. Years after his death, "Here lies a man who told nothing but truth. Here lies the man who wouldn't prove his innocence, but the flood proved it."